welcome to a very special episode of the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
And I am Ian.
And someone is being molested.
Somewhere in the world.
No, wasn't that, it wasn't in the 80s. It was like every time they had like a very special episode of something.
It was either that or drugs or alcohol.
Oh, okay. I guess I could have said we're all drunk, but.
I wish.
Yeah, no. It'd make it a lot better, I guess. But anyway.
Especially considering the topic we're covering, because it is like the pinnacle of stupidity.
Well, we'll get to all that. Yeah. But anyway, welcome to episode 64 of Life in General. As always, any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeingeneralpodcast.com. Ian, what's our Twitter handle? You remember that?
Of course you spring this on me today. At Life in General Pod. I don't fucking know. I don't care.
At LIG Pod.
Yes, that's what it is.
Do you at least know what we are on Facebook?
No, I don't think. You've never asked me that one.
Really?
Yeah, you've always hit me with the Twitter one or the website.
Well, because the Facebook one's really easy. Any guess?
Life in General Facebook?
Life in General Podcast,
yeah. Yeah, super easy.
Oh, jeez. Please, somebody help me.
I'm not a social media guy.
Yeah,
I'm just not. I use it solely as a time passer.
I think I've gotten a lot better at it in the past.
You have, and I'm just,
months,
for me, it is strically just to pass time.
And especially like as I've gotten into like vinyl and stuff, like because I post a lot of vinyl and stuff on especially on Instagram. So
whenever I can get around time to actually listen to some vinyl, I usually post what I'm listening to just for shits and giggles. But
yeah.
Which I did this past week. I listened to 3 whole albums this week.
S's and G's.
Yep. So, yeah, 3 whole albums this week. I'm pretty impressed with myself.
Sounds like a good time.
No, it was 4. It was 4. So I did Ride the Lightning. I did Icky Thump. I did that Best of the Blues album that is really good, by the way.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it's super awesome. And Kerplunk by Green Day. So I did 4 this week.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's impressive for me.
I don't know how many I listened to this week. I don't listen
a lot.
I don't listen to a whole lot just because I'm just
and you have the tendency.
I would say
a few of them you've listened to over and over.
Oh yeah.
So I usually don't. I side A, side B, and then I go to move on to something else because I've got a lot to listen to. I've bought albums that I haven't even wrapped that I've had for like months.
You haven't unwrapped them?
No.
You know that's not good for them, right?
To keep them wrapped?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, because the shrink wrap eventually will warp your vinyl.
It's not that tight, but yeah, I can understand.
But that's why they say if you ever come across vinyl from like, they're 20 or 30 years old, they're still shrink wrapped, don't buy them.
Yeah.
Because the vinyl will be warped.
No, it's
because the shrink wrap will eventually.
It's got to get through. It's got to get through the cardboard first.
But it'll still warp it.
Yeah, these are still new, and the wrap's still.
I just don't. That's always like the first thing I do when I get a record.
Generally too, but a couple of them I bought when I didn't have a working turntable. So I just bought them because I knew that if I didn't buy them then, I was going to miss the opportunity.
Really?
My Benefit's still wrapped. My Songs from the Wood is still wrapped.
Really?
Might be it. Oh, well, I bought the record store Dave. The 10 inch of I think I finally did open that one.
Yeah.
But my 45 from 2 years ago, which was the Christmas. It was a special Christmas 45. That's still wrapped up. So
I'm not a fan of 45s, by the way.
Yeah, I'll buy them if they're if there's something cool about them. But like that one was a record store day one, and
because I'm not a lazy person, but that's a lot of work.
Yeah, to flip it for one song, flip it, and then I get it. I mean, it is what it is. I don't mind it. Like I said, if there's something special about it, I prefer an LP overall because it is what it is. But
yeah. Plus, I don't know where my little piece went to listen to 45s.
It should be on the thing. I'll show you when we're done recording. It should be up there.
Is it? Yeah. I thought it was like a separate piece that came with it.
It is, but it's like kind of locked in the spot.
Oh, I got you. Because I remember like back when I was a kid. This is completely off topic.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, the record player we had, it was like the piece was embedded in the record player.
Yeah.
And you would just stick your finger down in there, pull it up, and turn it, and it would lock it in place.
Yeah. No, it's just
because we were kids and we'd lose the damn thing.
This is like a little round
disc.
It's not even a disc. It's more like a bottle cap. It looks like. Almost.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's. I'll show you. It just pops out and you slide it on the spindle and.
Oh, okay.
Go.
Well, that's interesting.
So, do you own any 45s?
I don't.
Yeah.
I've looked at a lot of 45s.
Like I said, there's usually nothing special about them. The songs that are on them are on the albums. Typically.
What's so special about 78s?
It's something about the RPMs. I have no idea what makes them special. I really don't.
Because apparently they're like highly collectible also.
Yeah, I don't think they make them anymore, but
I was listening to an interview not too long back. I think it was the interview with Henry Rollins. I guess he's a big vinyl collector.
Yeah, most of the musicians are.
And he was even talking about, going down the rabbit hole with 78s.
Mm-hmm. Is it something that's just collectible because it's not as common?
Yeah, I don't even know how what do you even play that on?
You'd have to have a record player that has a 3-speed.
Yeah.
So because it's 78, 33, or 45.
Yeah.
45.
But I don't think any of the like newer record players that
all the ones I've seen that are new are all 35 and 33 and 45.
Yeah, 33 and 45.
And it's something about the way they're cut. So if you play it in 33, it's going to sound slow because it was cut in 78 speed.
Yeah.
So
there is one thing I would like to find on as a 45.
Uh-huh.
And I know this is going to sound really weird when I say that. Jolene by Dolly Parton. I'd like to find that on 45.
Huh.
Just because if you take that song on the 45 and you slow it down to 33 RPM, it sounds so much better.
Really?
Yeah. It almost sounds like CCR. It almost sounds like a CCR song, the way it sounds. And her voice slowed down, yeah. So it's very interesting. Yeah, I'd like to find that. I haven't found it in stores anywhere. I found it online, but it's always like $30 or $40.
Which is way too much.
And I'm like, I'm not going to pay that kind of... I don't even want to pay more than $10 or $15 for it, But I don't know if it's something that's just not printed anymore, and that's why it's so hard to find it. But
probably. I mean, most.
Plus, I'm kind of lazy when it comes to digging through. Like when I go to Dearborn Music, it's a very daunting task to go through 45s.
Absolutely, because they don't have covers.
Yeah, because you can't just like flip through them. Like I can flip through LPs like nothing.
Right.
But
because you're looking at the covers and you can usually identify what you're looking for through the cover.
When you're flipping through 45s, you've actually got to like get down.
You've got to read the label. Yeah, absolutely.
And damn it, I'm too fucking lazy to have to read something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I found an article about the differences, but it's a long article, so I'm just gonna.
That's all right.
Talks about like the invention of the 78. And
we'll save it for another time because we were discussing a couple weeks back that we're like.
Doing a music episode.
Yeah, like our first episode that airs each month will be like a music themed episode.
So the one that comes out the week of April 1st.
So that episode will be like April 7th, I think.
Will it be the 7th? That late?
Yeah, because I think Fridays. I think April 5th is a Friday, and I release the shows on Sundays. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, because I think we're going. Yeah, yep. The 5th is a Friday. So the episode that comes out April 7th will be like music themed. And I was kind of kicking around the idea. I started reading about HD vinyl lately, so I figured maybe we talk about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about it too, because I've heard talk of it, but I haven't done too much research on it. And you mentioned it to me once at work.
Yeah,
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so there's some like interesting like vinyl technology kind of things out there that we might kick around and talk about. And I figured we could talk about like, maybe albums we found in the past month or so, or things we're looking for. And, we'll figure something out.
Why not?
We got a couple of weeks before we do that though.
Yeah. It's something we're familiarizing ourselves with, but we're also interested in.
Because that's kind of the nice thing about doing a weekly show now is. I mean, it gives us a lot more opportunities to talk about different things.
Yeah.
And I felt like, and that was kind of one of the ideas that I had behind going to a weekly show, or why I wanted to go push more to a weekly show is I felt like we like got not pigeonholed, but there was a lot of like recurring kind of themes that we talked about in the show.
Which felt me because there was weeks and weeks in between.
Yeah. So I felt like if we went to a weekly show, we could really broaden our topics and talk about, because there's a lot of months we would only have 2 episodes. Where now there's months where we're going to have 5 episodes.
Right. Well, it also
At least
kind of
4.
challenges us a little bit too. Creates keeps it lively for us to try and make sure that we're staying consistent, but also exploring other things that we may not otherwise explore.
Or it gives us the opportunity to go back and kind of rehash things we've previously talked about.
Yeah, like quicker moments.
Like Flat Earth conspiracies.
It's funny you mentioned that because that is today's topic, boys and girls.
Yes, it is WTF Flat-Earthers.
Yes.
Part 2. And so this is another one of Ian's topics that he brought up.
Just because I can't stop watching his damn fucking Flat Earther videos on YouTube.
Well, so it was actually that I didn't even really realize it, but I guess every November they have the Flat Earth International Conference. Mm-hmm. Is this like really big group of Flat Earthers, and they just held their 2018 conference in Denver, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And their 2019 conference is actually going to be November 14th to 15th in Dallas. Mm-hmm. If any listeners out there interested in going and attending, it was if you buy your tickets now, before the end of March, tickets are only $199 for the 2-day pass. If you wait till after March and up including the day of the event, tickets go up to $250.
Huh. I was just thinking we should go just to say we went and laugh at it, be the guys in the back going to the Flat Earthers, but I'm not spending that kind of money. And I don't really feel comfortable even advertising the dates or the cost to our audience, as small as you might be, because for some reason these conspiracy theories have a way of like spreading like a virus. Well, and I say that only because there was a statistic that was shown that most people become Flat Earthers solely because of YouTube videos.
Really?
Yeah. Before they just accept the spherical Earth and they're fine with it, and they watch 1 or 2, really within 2 videos, and they're like full blown Flat Earthers.
See, but that's the funny thing, because I watched, and I am not a YouTube person. I fucking hate YouTube.
But you've been using it a lot more recently. Over the last couple of years, for sure.
No, only out of necessity, like when I have to research things about Flat Earth conspiracies.
And this is what makes it fun, because as long as you're not susceptible to that kind of mental poison.
I wouldn't say poison. I would say mental gymnastics sometimes. But here's the thing. So the recurring theme that I saw out of the videos about last year's FEIC conference is that their focus was on. So several of the speakers said, "Look, don't blindly follow what you're hearing today. Go out and run your own tests. Go out and do your own experiments and prove it to yourself."
Right, but these are people who are not trained to do scientific experiments, which is why you get a video like I watched, where this guy puts a camera at the end of a gate. He puts it at the pivot end, the base, and then another one at the far end. And she points out that when you're at the far end and you're spinning, it looks faster than it does at the center. And that's proof that we're not even spinning. Because if we were spinning and we were at the far end of the world, we would see the stars and everything moving faster. That's the kind of untrained experiments that you get.
But the thing is, you almost have to block. Yes, there are a lot of crazy wackos that do these videos. But there are some videos that I watched where people have legitimate questions.
Questions are good. I like questions.
And they're not like, there's one guy that's talking about, he's like, yeah, he was like, I thought it was all crazy at first. He goes, and then one day, I lived down here in Florida, and then one day I was like, I'm just going to go down to the port. And he's like, I'm sitting down on the port, and I'm laying there on the beach, and I'm watching the ships go over what I thought was the horizon, which I thought was really funny. But
right, because it is the horizon. But
yeah. And he's like, well, with a spherical world, the bottom of the ship would disappear before the top of the ship. He's like, but as it went over the horizon, I pulled out my binoculars, and lo and behold, I could see the whole ship again. I'm like, you are the problem. you are one of these crazy people. But I think
even the ones who say, I just have questions, I have concerns, there's things that don't make sense to me, they all come to those same conclusions based on simple, basic observations that are not, it's not science when you do that. Observation is a very important part of science, but it's very small in the scientific method.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that people don't understand. They do not understand how science works. And what bothers me the most is that, yes, it's good to question, but if someone walked up to you and say, can you prove the earth is round? You personally, could you do it?
I've seen it.
Right. Short of telling them to get into an airplane, could you prove that the earth is round?
Not standing right here.
How would you do it if you weren't standing right here and not on an airplane?
I'm not a scientist.
Exactly. And these people, there is not one single person that I've seen in any, and I've watched probably damn near a couple hundred of these fucking flat earther videos. Not a one of them is a scientist. Not a one of them is using the scientific method. They're using the idea that they're already right, and then they're using bad science, bad ideas of bad ways of experimenting to prove their point. And their point is always proven because they're doing their experiment in a way that proves their point, not science.
Well,
that's the problem I have with it, because you see these people talking on these videos and they're like, well, look at this. It does this and it does this. It's got to be flat. And you hear someone who says, well, wow, they can prove it, because they don't understand science either. Most people don't. And they're like, oh, wow, they proved it. Now it's spread. Now that person's a flat earther. Yeah. Then the next person is the same fucking thing. It's bad ideas spreading.
Well, the funny thing is,
because the numbers are going up.
They are. And the funny thing is, so there's also the FEIC is planning a flat Earth cruise for 2020.
Is this the one that I showed you earlier? Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. It
is.
So it is. Okay. It is. Because apparently they're going to go float off the edge of the Earth.
They're going to try.
Yeah. They're calling the cruise the biggest, boldest, best adventure yet.
Can't trust anyone who comes up with titles like that.
So yeah, they're apparently all the like big named flat Earth personalities are going to be on the cruise. So they're going to fly. They're going to float to the Arctic ice wall that surrounds the flat Earth,
and prove that it's there.
I'm not sure how they're going to prove that it's there, because they've already.
Well, they're going to do what everyone else does. They're going to live Facebook Live it. They're going to live tweet it.
Yeah, but I mean,
Instagram.
So they've already admitted that the ice wall is huge. So are they going to like walk until they can like peek over the edge? Or what are they going to do once they get to the Arctic ice wall?
I don't know. Well, they're going to point their cameras and take pictures of space that's supposed to be underneath us. I don't know.
Is there going to be a ghost out there too? Space ghost?
Coast to coast? I don't know. I don't know what they expect to find.
Ice wall to ice wall?
I don't know what they expect to find, because basic physics in no way confirms their theories, whereas basic physics confirms all of the other theories of a spherical Earth that rotates. You know,
in speaking of like basic scientific law that we all accept. I've also noticed that there's a lot of them
that don't accept any of it.
That don't accept gravity or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Because in their minds, once one thing becomes a lie, they all become lies. A lot of flat earthers have started off from the point of view that the moon landing was faked.
Yeah.
So NASA lied to us about that. What else are they lying about? And then you hear, they're lying because the Earth is flat. It's not really round. What do you mean? Well, look, this. And they do that fake fucking science thing that they do, and boom. Oh, yeah, you're right, because they lied to me there. They're definitely lying to me there. And I just want to grab them by the fucking throat and say, what is to be gained by telling us the Earth is round when it's not? Well, what is truly to be gained?
And that's kind of the whole thing, is the other kind of recurring theme from last year's conference was this distrust of power and the powerful's influence over our knowledge and the people as a whole.
Yeah. I know one of the Flat Earthers I was watching.
Which, on a certain level, we should always kind of be concerned.
You can always question power. I totally agree with that. But this one guy was YouTubing from his car. He was in his car.
See, I think you're kind of you're focusing more on the like really whack job.
This is one of hundreds I've come across, and he was sitting in his car, and a helicopter happened to go over. He's like, "Yep, they're probably watching me because they're really concerned about all this truth I'm spewing." His words, not mine.
Yeah.
I don't know what is to be gained. What in a conspiracy has to have a point, has to have a purpose. You don't lie and hide facts and give falsities to somebody unless you have a purpose for doing so. What is the purpose of telling us for 500 years almost that the earth is round?
Well, you know what the purpose is.
What is the purpose?
The purpose is that the powerful Illuminati, or whatever you want to call them, the people that rule the earth and keep us all enslaved, are lying to us so we don't figure out who they are.
Fair enough. But again, where does the flat earth versus the spherical earth fall into that? I mean, if you go about your day, does it really fucking matter? Does it change anything either way?
So during the Cold War, there was a race to make it to space. Okay?
Yes.
And I'm saying this very tongue-in-cheek.
I know where you're going with
this.
I know where you're going.
This is a story I got from one of these videos.
Yes, I know where you're going with it. I think I've seen this video. Several of them anyway.
So there's a race to make it into space between the United States and the Soviet Union.
It was uniquely called the space race.
Yes. How very smart of them.
I'm just pointing that out because you kept saying a race to space. It was like, it was called the space race.
Yeah. Okay. So in a power grab, both the United States and the Soviet Union lied about reaching space
to certain degrees. Yes.
No, I'm saying this is what they believe in.
Oh yeah, but I mean there were lies too.
But this is why the moon landing and everything was faked, because they had to lie to disarm the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union had to lie about making it to space to disarm the United States.
Fair enough.
So this is where it all kind of started. So the lies were baked into the cake then, and have kind of grown since then. Well, okay, what are we pumping all this money into NASA for if they're not really doing anything? Oh, NASA's in space taking. Oh, look, here's pictures. Oh, look at the round world. And
they keep saying that as NASA's budget has dropped.
I know
exponentially over the last 25 years.
Well, it's because we haven't really gone to space in a very long time, or at least to the moon.
We're in space right now.
I know. I meant like
space right now.
To the moon and things like that.
Right. So, and they want to go again, but they're not willing to jump the budget up any.
It costs a lot more money to go to the moon than it does to go to the International Space Station.
Of course, and actually, because of our technology, it's harder even to go into space than it was in the 60s.
Okay. Because
our technology is much more susceptible to radiation issues that can short it out, whereas everything was so analog back then, it wasn't as susceptible, wasn't as vulnerable.
Real quick, I did want to say that anyone out there listening, if you did want to check out more information about the conference, it is flatearthconference.com.
Please don't buy it, though.
But it has a list of all the... Well, if you're interested in this, even as a skeptic, you can go on there. It has a list of all the people that are going to speak at the conference. You can go on there, and I think there's links to all their YouTube pages, so you can actually go on there and read about them and go on and check out their videos if you'd like.
And in reverse, I don't know of any conferences out there for the round Earth, but I can tell you one of the YouTubers that I actually enjoy watching because he likes to debunk a lot of the flat earthers. He does it very quickly and very tongue in cheek, and if he doesn't, he lets other people share his video channel and do it. The Cyman Dan on YouTube. Check him out. He's really good.
What is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing special. He shows what they're saying, says, yep, this is what it is, then moves on. Very simple. His video is usually about 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
Check him out. Just to keep reality check, because like I said, if watching two YouTube videos can convince a vast majority of the new flat earthers, I don't want to be feeding it. I don't want to be sending people in that direction. I don't believe in censorship, but please, if you're not a flat earther now, don't become one just because you looked into it, because it's not true.
Well, I mean, but the other thing is they are kind of coining this flat Earth cruise that they're doing in 2020. They're also calling it a fact-finding mission also.
Fair enough. I mean, hey, if they want to try and prove it, more power to them, but they can't. And I guess since we kind of got off a little off on that from what we were talking about before, you were talking about NASA and the Cold War and everything.
Uh-huh.
So that starts 1950s.
Yeah.
The world was accepted to be round long before that. So what's the point? What changes? What does calling the Earth round do?
Because the power that runs the world.
What do they gain by saying the Earth is round rather than flat?
Would be proven wrong if pictures came back from space with a flat Earth.
What was it, Galileo who discovered the Earth was round?
Yes,
okay.
yes. But
he was burned at the stake for that.
Okay.
So the powers didn't like that. What is the benefit of them changing their mind?
They don't want to be proven wrong. So they're faking these NASA photos.
They were proven wrong when they accepted the fact that the Earth was round after killing Galileo or whatever. I don't know if they killed him or not, but I'm pretty sure they did. And burning all of his books, they were proven wrong when they accepted his facts. They said, okay, we were wrong. We put an innocent man to death because he was right. So that's admitting they're wrong.
But they can't be... No, because they were right. They were right all along that the Earth is flat.
No, they ended up changing their minds.
I know that, but now they can't go back.
Sure they could. They do it all the fucking time.
No. The powers that run the world can't go back. So they have to keep everyone...
Okay.
So the way of keeping everyone under their thumb...
You do realize that the Vatican is supposedly part of the Illuminati. And the Vatican admits to being wrong all the fucking time. And they change their minds again. They do it all the fucking time.
Ian, I'm not saying they're right. I'm just trying to explain to you what their thought process is.
The thought process is flawed because there's no actual gain or benefit. And there's no consequences to being wrong if you're in power.
I don't know if there really necessarily has to be.
Then what's the point?
The people in power do things only to keep themselves in power.
The fact of the world being round or flat has no bearing on them keeping their
power. I wonder what percentage of these people that are flat earthers also buy into things like Illuminati conspiracies and things like that.
Well, this little chart here shows what the percentages of religious to non-religious are. You don't want to know.
Well, I don't think it really matters.
But it does.
Because I would say I would say a vast majority of religious people aren't flat earthers.
No, I didn't look at those numbers. I can look those up too.
But it does. I'm sure it's a very, very small, minute number.
Well, it's a small number across the board.
No, I'm not saying there's really no correlation there. I think. But there's
a certain level of correlation to gullibility, but that's.
So there's a lady. Her name is Patricia Steer.
Okay.
Are you familiar with her?
I don't think so.
Apparently, she's one of the really big, popular flat earthers.
Okay, unless she's made a YouTube video or been mentioned in one, I don't know.
Oh yeah. Her channel is called Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. Because my daughter walked by me and she's like, "What the heck are you watching?" She was like, "Hot potatoes."
Oh, so that's all she saw was hot potatoes?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't. Maybe I guess maybe I've seen a lot of female YouTubers doing flat Earth videos, but I don't remember that.
She had one episode in particular. I don't remember what episode number it was. It was pretty early on her show, and I think she's been on a while since then. But she
have you watched her videos real quick? Have you watched it?
Yes.
Okay. Does she sound relatively intelligent, or does she sound kind of ditzy?
She sounds kind of out there.
Okay.
But some of the guests she's had on her shows don't.
Okay.
They sound
because I've watched a couple.
They sound like they know what the hell they're talking about.
I don't want to be sexist, but I've seen a couple with girls who are like, if the Earth is round,
no.
I mean,
she doesn't sound like a valley girl or something like that.
Well, neither do these, but they just sound dumb.
She sounds like an intelligent-ish person. It's just not very intelligent things that come out of her mouth, I don't think.
Right.
But she had a guy named Brian Mullen on her show.
I've heard him before.
And he raised some very good points and questions that he'd had during his whole discovery process, because he was one of those people that originally thought this was all the dumbest shit.
You keep giving these people more credit than they deserve. I should point out his discovery. Go check this out. Just saying.
Well, because I want people to make up their own decision, their own minds. I mean, I'm not gonna
making up your own mind is fine, but facts are facts.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there really isn't much to make up your mind about facts. I mean, we do live in Trump world, but it's still a fact is still a fact.
Is there a possibility that we could be wrong? It's highly unlikely. I'm gonna say. I'll answer my own question.
Yeah.
It's highly improbable.
Because we've seen it. We can fucking see it.
It's highly improbable. It's not impossible.
It's pretty much impossible at this point because we can fucking see it. Is it possible that this pop bottle I'm holding is not real? Sure. But I can touch it and you can see it, so it's probably it's very unlikely. Very unlikely. It's damn near impossible.
I would say that it's more likely that pop bottle is real than the Earth is round.
No, I think our technology and our experience.
I'm just saying there is a possibility that we're wrong. I'm not saying we are. I am absolutely in no way a flat Earth.
Let's just say that I'm willing to accept that we don't know everything.
Okay. And that's all I'm trying to get to.
I mean, and that's not even a willingness to accept. That's just a fact. We don't know everything. But given our experience, given the evidence, it would be the same as someone coming up to me and saying gravity doesn't exist at this point.
Okay.
And being right. And there not being gravity. That's how infinitesimal the possibility is in my mind. Because we can see gravity every time we drop something.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just saying there's a possibility. But anyway, this Brian Mullen guy, he doesn't sound like one of these crazy whack job people. He sounds like he's somebody that is at least has one foot in reality. But anyway, the episode that he was on, that thing had 80,000 views, over 80,000 views.
Well, and his videos, I've seen one or two of his, I'm sure. I know the name. So
I don't remember. I don't remember that he's got his own channel now also, I believe. But he was on her. I think he was on her show before or right in the beginning of his channel launching. Mm-hmm. But he was even talking about having questions about, and I think he's into more like the mathematics and physics side of it.
Is he a physicist though?
No. But he did say that, I believe he said that he worked with physicists, that he had questions, so he went to them about it.
Okay.
And they couldn't, their answers were basically, it is what it is. And he didn't like that, so he kind of...
And that's I wouldn't like that either, but it's kind of a silly question. It's kind of the same type of question a child would ask. I mean, to be fair, I'm not being cheeky there. I'm saying that to someone who's a physicist, if you come up to them and say, how do we know the Earth is round?
Okay, there weren't questions like that.
Well, I guess it would depend on how we raise that question.
I don't remember exactly. There weren't really questions like that. They were more... I'd have to go back.
Seriously,
I'd have to go back and watch the video.
You as not a non-scientist, if someone came up to you and said, how do you know gravity exists? You would pick something light up and drop it and say, that's how I know gravity exists. But that doesn't explain it to me. I don't understand. Then you say, well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Because you can't explain something.
Because you dropping something doesn't necessarily prove gravity.
No, but it's an indicator. It's a strong indicator. So I can feel that level of, because I understand the need to want to understand things. I get that. Probably stronger than I get anything else in existence. I really do. I want to understand everything. I want to know how we know and why it's that way. I really do. I get it. But there are some things that kind of don't really require explanation, so it's hard to give one.
I guess the thing that I kind of give them credit for, at least at these conferences, is that they always go back to doing your own investigation.
There are some things, unless you're educated in that field, you can't do your own investigation.
I mean, I don't know.
When you do, you get these people like the guy in California who tried to take a rocket up into space. His own homemade fucking rocket into outer space.
He had a living, didn't he?
Yeah, because he didn't make it more than 1,000 feet in the air.
I didn't even think he made it that high.
It probably wasn't. It was less than 1,000 feet.
I thought he made it like 100 feet in the air.
No, he was up. He got up there a little higher, but it was somewhere between 100 and 1,000.
That's right. The one I saw, the one I was thinking was he didn't even. The one I was thinking of, he didn't even take off.
Okay,
he didn't make it off
so
the
guy, one I thought it took off, and he got up there. I mean, he got, we'll say, a few hundred feet in the air.
Yeah,
but that's what you get when you tell inexperienced people. If you want to explore this stuff, then study physics first. Study the laws of gravity. Study the laws of spatial differential and all this other stuff, and then do your own investigating.
I guess,
but don't just say, I've got a bachelor's degree in economics. I'm quite capable of studying this universal constant. It just doesn't make any sense.
So
that's part of the problem, I think, right there.
I have seen a video. I don't remember the guy's name. But basically what he did was he mathematically calculated the curvature of the Earth, which is not that difficult to do.
Was he accurate? I don't know what the numbers are.
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are either. But
Simon and Dan would put them out there for us.
I'm not a math person at all.
Not on that level.
Or at all. I'll say like 4 + 4. But,
a little bit better than that. Except today I couldn't.
Ian couldn't do simple math.
I did struggle with simple math earlier, but my brain hurts today.
So he calculated the curvature of the Earth, and then he marked one point, and then he went X amount of feet or wherever it is, away to where he shouldn't have been able to see his mark. Mm-hmm. And through a telescope, he was able to see it still. And that was kind of how he.
And I can't explain that, but I would assume that there's something to do with the fact that he had a telescope. First of all, second of all, there's different gradients on the Earth. Some areas are flatter than others. You've got mountain ranges, you got flatlands. Yeah, you've got rolling hills. You've got.
I'm just saying that was one of his
one experiment that for a lot of Americans would see that one experiment and say, "Oh, he's proved it. It's fat."
Well, no, I think for most people, they would see an experiment like that and have more questions. I think you overestimate the American public. Not automatically jump.
Some of them do.
Like
I said, a lot of they went to the last conference. This study that I talked about. They went to this last conference, mm-hmm. and that's where they got those numbers about people who joined into this. Does
it say how many people were at the conference?
No, it might have. I didn't see it in there, but you can check it there. I've got it somewhere. Maybe we can put it in the show notes or something. Because I read most of the article. I can't remember if they mentioned how many people were total in the audience, but they said they polled 100 people maybe out of the group, or it might have been 200. They said their poll number, and the ratio was quite high as to people who got on there, first of all, just because of YouTube videos, and second, how many YouTube videos it took for them to get there.
Yeah.
And the average was 2. 2 videos is all it took.
So from what I'm seeing, they were saying that there were more than 600 people.
Okay.
That's not a really big conference.
That's not a real big, and 100 of that, I mean, that's a big number of that group, but that's not a big number overall.
Yeah. So
this would have been the last one, whatever the last
2018. It was in Denver.
Okay.
So 600 people.
Out of that, but I mean, that's kind of telling though. Out of that 600 people, 100 people polled, and it was 68 or 69% got there because of 2 videos, or 1 to 2 videos.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
It shouldn't, but that's a high number of that group that was there, and it's because you figure when you poll like that, you're averaging out over that 600 people, so arguably it's still in the high 60s overall, the 600 law of averages. Now apply that to the overall whole, you would assume that there's some accuracy to it on the whole. And that was kind of what I was getting to with the religious thing too, but it's not universal either. So.
No. The other thing is that I saw mentioned several times in the videos regarding last year's conference was them saying not only to do your own research into the topic, but also always being willing to accept that you may be wrong.
Fair enough. That's another strong tenet of science. Absolutely. In fact, science goes out of its way to make sure to try to prove that it's wrong.
Correct.
So that's fine. But we already have the evidence. Fair enough if you don't trust where the evidence comes from.
Exactly.
But you're not going to convince me that there was ever a conspiracy until you can convince me exactly what's to be gained of 500 years of conspiracy. 500 years.
There doesn't have to be 500 years worth of conspiracy.
The Earth has been accepted to be round for at least 300 universally.
Okay.
So you have to prove a conspiracy that goes back 300 years.
No, I don't think you do. I think you have prove a conspiracy that goes back 60 years or 70 years.
Why? We accepted the fact that the Earth was round before communism even existed. How can you use it as a tool to fight communism?
Because
it's a lie, I mean.
Because
when it doesn't matter.
What you can say is as far as a conspiracy would go, was okay, but it wasn't until the NASA program really kind of like took off that they realized that they were wrong, and the Earth isn't round; it's actually flat. And at that time,
so the conspiracy starts in the 60s,
correct,
to disprove what we accepted 250 years before.
Correct.
Again, I don't.
That makes more sense than a conspiracy over 500 years. You know.
You as a reasonable person who knows and accepts the fact that the Earth is round, if NASA were to come out tomorrow and say the Earth is flat, what would your reaction be to it?
I wouldn't trust it.
Okay, but if they came out NASA,
yes,
and every scientist connected to NASA and outside of NASA, it's been this big conspiracy. They come out and say yes, it was conspiracy. The Earth is flat. The universe is not what we say it is. We're basically living in an egg, which is one of the theories, by the way.
There's some really weird ones out there.
I wonder if you've seen it, but this guy actually made a model of the universe. It was egg-shaped as a black guy.
No.
Okay.
What does his race have anything to do with it?
No, I'm just it's an identifier.
Thanks.
It's an identifier.
Okay. I'm just joking, Ian.
I used it solely as an identifier because he made this really, really good model of what he thought the universe was.
Yes, I've seen him before.
Okay. That's all I'm saying. It was an identifier, you jackass.
Yes,
just like you're the bald guy.
You were the one that threw race in it.
I didn't throw race in it. I said he was black as an identifier. Just like if I was describing you, I'd say the tall bald guy.
Okay.
As an identifier. I'm not baldest. I'm not baldest. Well, black guy could have been anybody too. It was still an identifier.
So now you're saying they all look alike. Good job, Ian. You fucking racist. All right, go.
What does an on-air murder sound like? Because there's about to fucking be one.
Oh, you shoot me in a dream, you better wake up and apologize.
I have shot you in a dream. I'm sure of it. I've known you long enough to want it to imagine it in waking time. But anyway,
go back.
I forgot what I was talking about. It wasn't a fucking role. You realize what fucking world we live in.
Yes.
If I ever want to do anything, they could pull this podcast up, and I could lose everything I've ever worked hard for.
Which is nothing.
If I want to get in politics, they're going to pull this video, this audio.
Yeah, because you're going to get in politics.
You never know.
You never know. I might just turn myself orange and wait till I'm 70. All right, go on. Go ahead.
Well, you just gave my plan away to the whole fucking world, but okay. Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. I really do. You completely fucked up my train of thought.
Oh, man.
Where was I going with that?
I don't know.
Oh, that's where I was going. So NASA comes out and they say, and all the science, everyone, it was a conspiracy. We were wrong. Everything, and it's all the scientists, and they all say the same thing. What happens? What do you do?
I don't believe them.
Everybody, the whole fucking community, the whole scientific community says the Earth is flat.
I would have serious questions that I would need to have answered before I believe them.
And they answer those questions. I'm asking you, what changes in your fucking life?
Nothing.
Exactly.
But
what's the fucking point? In this day and age,
there's a lot of things that happen in this world that don't affect my life, but still happen.
Right. So what's the point of continuing it? Seriously, what would serve a better purpose? Continuing to lie and fake everything? The cost of faking it, because they still have to fake shit. To keep this potential conspiracy,
the sham going,
they still have, because you can see the fucking International Space Station go by the moon sometimes. Mm-hmm. You can fucking see it up there. So somehow they're either projecting, they're doing stuff that costs fucking money.
Oh well, but there's other conspiracies that are involved here though.
See, that's what I mean. Because there's
the one we've talked about it before on the last episode when we talked about flat Earth conspiracies. Is my favorite, which is the moon doesn't really exist. That it's actually just a projection in the sky.
Right.
Not sure what it's being projected onto.
It's being projected on the dome over the planet.
Oh, okay.
So there's a dome.
I guess if there's a dome over the planet, over the flat Earth, that's with the moon being projected on it, I guess they could project the International Space Station.
Sure, they could. Could they project the moon 500 years ago?
What's the dome made out of? Cheese?
Hopes and dreams? I don't know. I really don't know. See, that's the thing. It's very easy to say we're being lied to, and it's very easy to say, I don't see this, so it must be this. But much like any other group of people who are wrong, they're not offering any alternative evidence. They're not doing the things that are necessary. They're,
to a certain extent.
Again, they're only offering the evidence that proves their point.
Well, I think some of them do raise some legitimate questions.
What would you say is a legitimate question as to whether or not the Earth is round? What is a legitimate question?
It doesn't necessarily go to the roundness of the Earth, and I don't have any of the specific experiments that they've done.
No, I'm just asking you personally. What do you personally see as legitimate questions as to what we now understand? Because what we understand is very small, but we do understand that small portion of how the universe is and works. What part of that do you find to be a legitimate question?
Well, like the experiment I talked about earlier with the guy,
as I said, that's very easy. It's very easy to.
That's a legitimate question. I'm not saying I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's a legitimate question.
It's a legitimate question, but it's easy to I could dispute it. It depends on what level on the Earth you were looking at.
Okay, but I'm still saying that it doesn't change the legitimacy of it. I mean,
it does.
Even if
his point, his experiment was flawed.
Even if it's easily in your mind answered.
His experiment was flawed because he didn't personally. Did he mention that? Did he bring that up? He didn't take that into account.
What's that?
What his elevation was relative to the object.
I don't remember. And it was a while ago that I saw that.
I can guarantee you he did, because I think I've seen that video too. I
think I watched that for the last time we.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that same video. He does not at any time consider those other factors, which automatically puts his experiment into the flawed category. Unless that's experiments are done in a hermetically sealed environment where it's studyable, where you can say, this is the results I get when all those factors are equal. None of those factors in his experiment were equal, which completely throws his experiment out. So whether or not he was right or wrong, his experiment was wrong, the way he did his experiment. So until he can do that experiment in a proper setting, in a proper way, there is no question. The speculation is moot. It's done. It doesn't matter.
I would say the Brian Mullen's an interesting guy to check out. He's got some interesting videos, and like I said before, they're not whack job. Look, I put a soda can on the ground here and it didn't roll. The Earth can't be round. Right. Which I've seen those videos.
I've seen many of those. Have you seen the one where the guy, and I think we've talked about, where the guy pours water over a basketball and the water rolls off? He's like, oh, that proves it can't be round because the water doesn't. It just rolls right off.
What?
I swear to Christ, that's exactly what he does. And he's like 18 years old.
Well,
so first of all, he's an idiot to begin with because he's young. But he's making a fucking YouTube video, and because he's young, he's appealing to young people.
A Trump voter, but
he probably is. I don't know. I try not to speculate on the political leanings of crazy people, but we're living in a world where it affects us.
Brian Mullen was probably one of the more compelling people that I watched.
Which leads me to ask you, what was compelling about his arguments? As again, someone who understands the way the universe works in the scheme of what we understand.
I guess it's kind of hard to say because
Does he just have an air of authority around him?
No, because it's coming from me as a person who doesn't believe any of it.
Fair enough, but I'm open-minded, but I've never seen a compelling argument. I've never seen anyone give any evidence. Anything.
You're confusing compelling with believable.
Well, compelling means that he might have a point. Correct. Otherwise,
possibly.
It's either compelling or it's not. I don't know where the distinction comes in. If it's compelling, that means he's making you question what you think, or at least giving you reason to say I should look into this further.
Okay, because compelling in the form of we're talking about people thinking the Earth is flat.
So you're saying, just so that I'm clear, you're saying he seems to have convinced himself properly, or he's saying things that could potentially be accurate.
I think he is. It sounds like somebody that's gone through the correct paths to. Then
his conclusions should sustain that.
Yes, but we're not at that point because he does think.
But he's presenting them as though they do.
But he is also a gravity denier, which I think is far more insane than flat earthers.
But it's all the same thing because that's how they do the mental gymnastics, as you put it, around other things like rotation and gravitational pull being necessary for the universe to exist as we understand it. Because once you make the Earth flat, every other celestial body is either non-existent or also flat and doesn't require a gravitational pull. I've seen the arguments. My point is if he denies gravity, which I pointed out, to the best of our knowledge, we can prove.
Yeah, as you drop something on the desk.
Right,
yeah.
And I dropped it on the floor earlier.
Yeah.
Which is carpeted, so you didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Which I should have done anyway. But so he denies the existence of something that we have more than a rudimentary understanding of. Yet something in his argument, in his experimentation, is compelling. I guess I could argue that I've watched interviews with Charles Manson, and in the midst of a lot of his insanity, there's been a couple times where he said something that I kind of agreed with.
Yeah.
So sure, I can see that. But we're not talking about opinions and ideas and sanity versus insanity. We're talking about science versus non-science.
Oh, yeah.
Reality versus non-reality.
And I guess to kind of bring it all back around, is it more this whole thought process, is it more of a result of like this long-term battle, over far longer than we've been alive, this battle against education,
partly,
or a growing distrust in what we consider like normal educational institutions?
Probably, because at least a portion of it. Because I think it's a distrust of government as well, or power, as you pointed out. And I don't know where that comes from. Yes, the government does shit that's shady, and they lie to us all the fucking time,
every day, multiple times.
Do we really? Does any government in the world deserve a blank check of trust? Absolutely not. But there are things that are beyond the government that cannot be denied.
Yeah.
A lot of things that are denied every day. More recently, anti-vaxxers. It's a perfect example. They think the government's trying to poison us. That's where a lot of it comes from. Well, some of it even comes from religion. I'm not criticizing religion, but there have been throughout the history of vaccinations, there have been preachers who come along and say, don't take this because it's against God's laws.
This is the thing. I think with at least a lot of the anti-vaxxers that I've seen in articles about it, a lot of times it refers back to this, what they believe is like a secret government fund that's basically that's hush money to quiet the people that are injured by vaccinations. Again, it is a real thing. The government really does have an injury bank for people that are injured by vaccinations, but they use that as a reason not to vaccinate their children, not thinking that, okay, is it possible that you could be injured from this shot.
Yeah, it's a very small percentage, but people have gotten sick from it.
You are more likely to be killed by the dozens of things you're preventing than being injured by that.
Which is being proven daily with the outbreak of measles and chickenpox and mumps and whatever. Rubella. Rubella is another one. It just came back. I just heard a story the other day about a case of rubella.
I know. Things that we wiped off the
essentially, things that we had vaccinated almost to extinction are now coming back strongly. And what does that tell anybody? But again.
Now hold on one second. I think it's measles. There was a measles outbreak in part of Michigan. And originally I was like, oh, them damn anti-vaxxers. Well, what ended up being it was somebody coming from outside of the country that wasn't a U.S. citizen, I believe. Wow. So it wasn't necessarily an anti-vaxxer or someone that hadn't been vaccinated. It was just
somebody from a country who didn't have the same
vaccination
laws or whatever, which I think they should have fucking
access to vaccinations.
Yeah, I had trouble saying that. I was going to say that, but how can you not have access to vaccinations but access to airplanes?
There's a lot of
I mean, cross-continental air flight is not cheap.
No,
but you can't afford a fucking shot.
But regardless, and there's also a large segment of our population that isn't able to get vaccinations. And I don't want to get into a big anti-vaccination or pro-vaccination
argument. No, because I think I would like to see. I would be curious to see if there is an overlap between anti-vaxxers and flat earthers. I would assume there's some, but I'd be curious to see what the number.
I don't know
what the volume is.
I don't know, but going back to this whole, I guess to the whole thing. I wonder if the big explosion in all this is really due to social media.
Well, that's
because it gives them a platform.
That was kind of my point when I brought up the whole YouTube video, that it only takes 2 videos on average to convince people. I don't want to say stupid people because these aren't necessarily stupid people. A lot of these people are very intelligent, but it takes on average less than 2 videos to convince them. What happens when there's millions of videos?
Yeah. And I guess that kind of gets to an even bigger argument, and one that we don't have time here for today, but is it getting to a point where we need to at least start having a discussion about censorship on the internet?
Well, it's already become a discussion. YouTube is now has gone so far as to demonetize any video they consider to be conspiratorial.
But I'm not talking about demonetize things. I mean, like, just flat taking them off your platform.
No. I have conceded that there is a certain level of responsibility that comes with free speech. But for the most part, I'm a First Amendment absolutist. Because I'm not an absolutist on many things, but that's one thing I am.
3 or 5 years ago, I would have said absolutely no way. And I'm not saying I'm in favor of any kind of censorship. Right. I'm saying absolutely no way it would never or should never happen. And
what, censorship?
Yeah, on the internet. And I'm starting to hear more people in favor of at least having to use your true identity online.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, I think.
But that's even a form of censorship.
No, the First Amendment only gives you the right to speak your mind.
Correct.
It does not give you the right to speak your mind privately.
Okay. But
if you want to do it privately, do it in your own home to yourself.
But that's the argument.
But
the argument that's made is you're violating your freedom of speech if you're making
someone identify themselves
when they speak.
Because the First Amendment protects their right as it is. Telling you have to back it up with your identity has no bearing on the First Amendment whatsoever.
If you're someone living in China, under communist rule, and
Chinese communism, but okay,
but trying to speak out against the government, but you're required to use your name online.
Every government has their own laws governing the.
You see where I'm going, though.
Yes, I do. The U.S. cannot make laws that apply to China. China can make laws that apply to China. China cannot make laws that apply to the U.S.
Yeah, but Facebook can make laws that apply to everybody. And that would come down to requiring you as a person to give your true identity to make a Facebook profile would be across the board. Same thing with Twitter. Same thing with Instagram. Same thing with YouTube.
Yeah.
You proving your identity.
Well, I you know what? Like I said, I'm an absolutist. I think everyone has the right to say what they want. I believe that if you're going to, in this country, we have that right. You should not feel necessary to obscure your identity unless you feel you're wrong and don't want to be proven so. That's to me, it's cowardice. I understand on the reverse, in countries where you can be imprisoned for free speech, that becomes a problem. So yeah, I guess if it affects other countries and people in other countries, sure, we can't do it.
But the reason,
but here, I don't have a problem with it. If you think you're right, you shouldn't be afraid to identify yourself. And if you are, you're wrong.
The reason that I bring all that up is because, especially over the course of the past week or so, ever since the shooting in New Zealand, there has been more talk of at least making it mandatory to prove your identity online. Because it seems like, at least with these last couple of mass shootings, they're all kind of starting to cite the same white nationalist sources.
Now, what you're talking about, online, your identity, or your identity when it comes to social media?
Both.
No. You should be allowed a certain level of privacy online, but on social media, which is social media, you should be. I think there's an argument to be made that you're giving up your freedom to be anonymous because you're on social media.
Okay.
So by nature, it should be. I think. I mean, again, I'm speaking strictly for the U.S., where we don't have to fear what we say.
Look at this, though. What about? Okay, let's take our website for instance.
Fair enough.
We don't have a message board on there,
right?
But if we did, would you want people to have to say who they were in our message board?
Because a message board isn't social media.
Because that's what they're doing. That's where a lot of the stuff is being born.
I'm referring to Facebook. I'm referring to YouTube. I'm referring to Instagram. Strictly social media. Message boards I don't really see as social media because they're specific.
But that's where a lot of this that's where a lot of this stuff is being bred at.
You can't censor that. As much as I hate the idea of there being white supremacist message boards out there, no rational person, you and I, aren't going to the message boards.
I know I'm not. You're the one that being racist earlier, so I don't know what's up.
Anyway. We can't stop those message boards from existing. And we cannot dictate to a person who owns that website how they conduct themselves because unless they're making huge amounts of money in advertising. And again, then they'd be pretty much at the mercy of their shareholders like Facebook is. Or should be. I don't know if they actually are, but should be. But as a private website, ours is private. We make no money off of that. Mm-hmm. If our message boards are controlled by people who believe in fairies, and that's a controversial thing and maybe arguably causes someone to kill someone over their disbelief in a fairy, our website's still private. Our website. The government can't dictate to us.
But I'm just saying
social media is not public. It's not private. There's nothing private about Facebook. There's nothing private about those others.
What harm is there in saying, okay, this is your IP address. You have to have a true identity linked to your IP address.
That's fine. But that has nothing to do with the people posting on that.
But it does.
Oh,
it does.
You said IP. That's not just a website. That's wherever you're at.
Yes, that would be an identity marker.
Technically, you do.
No, you don't.
How do you get at internet access without an IP address?
I've got a VPN. I can hide anywhere in the world.
Yes, but you have internet access that's not protected in terms of that. You get an internet bill. Mm-hmm. So there's a level of non-privacy already with you.
But there's a lot of different ways to hide that.
And there's always going to be ways to hide it.
But I'm saying
making it mandatory isn't going to change anything.
All I'm saying is even if it's not an IP address, as long as there is a way to identify you online, regardless of where you go, how does that harm you?
It doesn't.
That's my point.
The only reason I'm even concerned about it is because of other countries. If you make it mandatory, you are putting people in danger. In the United States, we don't have to worry about that. I have no problem with that. Because if anything, it could have far-reaching benefits to it. Because even though the government has curbed the trade of child pornography, it might open up other avenues and find more and get these people off the streets.
Yeah.
So there are benefits.
You want to go even sex trafficking.
Sex trafficking, which is a huge problem. So there are other benefits, and I don't see it as a slippery slope until they start telling you how to be on the internet, what you're looking at. I don't see that as a problem.
Then again, I'm also a person that believes that wouldn't have an issue with the government putting a chip in you either and tracking us.
Oh, what is the purpose of them tracking us? What does it benefit? Who does it benefit?
I think it benefits everyone.
How?
But I don't want to get off on that.
How? No.
That's a whole...
It's all part of the conspiracy theories here, because I'm totally against that. I'm curious how you think that's beneficial to everybody to have a chip.
I think it would greatly reduce crime rates.
How?
If knowing, here's a dead body. Oh, look, this is who was right there.
Yeah, okay, fine. Knowing exactly where everyone is at every moment of the day?
Yeah.
No. Have you never read a fucking book? Seriously. For fuck's sake.
They're called books, Ian.
Yeah, you've read one, right?
Yes.
Then no.
Why?
You don't do that.
Why not?
I mean, do you want to live in a fascist state? Because that's a police state. Regardless.
Why? No.
Every fascist fucking state has started with them saying, we're only using it for this.
Here's the slippery slope argument.
I'm sorry. Fuck yeah. No. You're not getting a fucking chip in me. I'm sorry. You're not getting one. I wouldn't trust any government that wanted to.
I wouldn't have a problem with it. I don't care. I don't have anything to hide.
I don't either. I have nothing to fucking hide. But there is internet privacy and personal privacy are two fucking separate things.
That's not a big issue with it.
Whatever. I do. The government can keep their eye on me the way they're doing it now, and that's about it.
Through the Illuminati.
No, through cameras. They're watching everything. Fine, fair enough. They've got traffic cams. They can find us. We've talked about this. Well, in a sense, we talked about it because I pointed out how I don't know how there can still be serial killers in this day and age.
There's not many of them.
They can track us through our fucking phones already. Mm-hmm. They know where I'm at anyway. They don't need to put a fucking chip in my arm.
Just saying, to make things a lot easier.
Yeah, it makes it easier to control us.
Do you have anything else to add on the whole flat Earth thing?
No, other than I think people need to understand how science works. Once you understand how science works and understand all of the levels that you have to go through to prove a hypothesis, and then you go through that process, once you completely understand how it works, and then you come to the conclusion that the Earth is flat, I might try to listen to you.
I would say that, and I'll leave it at this, that they do go through that.
They do not.
But
they start with the hypothesis. They do one experiment, and it proves their hypothesis.
But they also admit, at least the ones I've seen, that there are variables that they can't explain. That's all I'm saying.
I don't see that at all. I've watched hundreds of videos.
So anyway, if you're interested in all that stuff, go to the flatearthconference.com and check out.
And if you're interested in reality, there's plenty of alternatives.
But I'm just saying, there's a list of speakers on there. You can go on there and check out their videos. I will always encourage people to go and look at whatever.
I don't have any problem with them going and looking, but just trust me. The science is there.
It's not heroin, Ian. It's not.
Apparently, it is for some.
You go and
all right. Then how are the numbers of flat earthers growing in 2019?
Because of the internet and social media,
and you're sending them to the heart of where that shit's coming from. I'm not saying to censor them, but I wouldn't be recommending that they go look for it.
I would always recommend you should always look as someone that doesn't believe the other side of the argument. You should always understand and know at least the rational part of their argument.
And I completely 100% agree when the arguments are equally based on evidence.
Regardless,
they're not.
You should always understand the other side of the argument.
All right, fair enough. Do it, because I can't argue with that. Normally, I would be cheering you on, but I don't know. I think I'm starting to lose faith in people's in humanity in general, and I don't want to send any of the good ones into the dark side. I can't do it.
Stay in the light.
Please.
Stay in
the light of science and reason and logic and pure observation.
Speaking of reason,
I don't know if I want to know where this is going.
Speaking of reason,
yeah,
you should go check out our website, lifeandjournalpodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter at ligpod.com. Oh, I'm sorry, at ligpod.
We promised our fans in the last episode this is going to be a lighter episode. I am so angry right now. I don't even know why. I want to punch the wall. I really do.
Any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com. We're on iTunes, Google Podcasts, all the other places, and that's about it.
The Earth is round. The universe is billions of years old. Yeah, it's
roundish.
Not a pure ball, but it's a ball-ish.
Well, all right. Until next time.
Talk to you all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, the niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit. Watch out, you the god, Billy. Oh shit. Right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch. With a gold smile, you should probably make placement to your eye. Niggas sick as fuck. Standing with niggas who down for that party.